All right, this is week 3, and in our Bible study times this morning and in the message, we're going to talk about the truth about God. There's probably not a more complicated topic to try to wrestle with in a sermon time or in a Bible study time. I mean, where do you start and where do you end? Do we talk about the attributes of God, or do you talk about the moral attributes of God? Do you talk about the existence of God in the first place? Do you talk about questions that come up about how could a moral, righteous, loving God allow things that are evil to happen? So this morning you're going to get into a lot of these things in your Bible study time. A couple of verses that really say the same thing in Psalm 14:1 and Psalm 53:1. Both of those say that the fool has said in his heart that there is no God. Yet we know that we live in a culture that in many ways has sort of a celebrity status around people that have chosen to say there is no God. Well, throughout history, philosophers have come up with a number of what we generally call classical proofs for the existence of God. The first classical proof for the existence of God we call the cosmological argument for the existence of God. And even in the frame of the camera, you can see a little bit about what that means. The cosmological argument for the existence of God states that nothing comes into being on its own. So as you look back and you see trains, or you see a train track, and maybe you'll see a train passing by, you see concrete, you see buildings, none of those just happened. That there had to have been a first cause that made those things happen. And as you apply that to the existence of God, the universe, we know, had a beginning. And even scientists are trying to figure out, when did the universe begin? How did the universe start? And science has come up with what they call the Big Bang Theory, which really doesn't explain how things came to exist initially so that there could be a Big Bang. But philosophers then, with the cosmological argument for the existence of God, would say God is that first cause. God is what caused other things to come into existence. Nothing comes into existence on its own. God, who is pre-existent without beginning or end, God is that first cause. That's the cosmological argument. Another good argument for the existence of God is called the teleological argument, or the argument for design. And that means that when you look at the world and you see order, and you see seasons, and you see change, and you see rotations, and it looks like that there is some design behind it. So you have a choice whether to believe that all of this came to be just from some sort of random mutation over billions and billions of years. Even then, the cosmological argument would say, how did that even come to be? But the teleological argument says that there is design, so there must be a designer. I've got this little thing that's in my office. It's a motorcycle, you can probably tell that was made by young Sudanese kids that kind of stay on the street, and they create little things and then they sell them to you. So this is all made from scrap metal, but you can see clearly that there was some thought put into this, that this just didn't appear. So whether it's that motorcycle or whether it's this basket that I've got in my office that comes from Sudan as well, you can see that there's some design to it. It looks like somebody put some time into it. There's even some Arabic writing on it that says happy year 2004. That's the teleological argument. Says you look around you and you see that there is design and there is purpose and there's intent, and therefore God is the designer. A third argument for the existence of God is called the moral argument for the existence of God. And that argument says that around the world, in any culture, there seems to be some universal rules of morality, such as you shouldn't kill someone, you shouldn't abuse someone, you shouldn't steal, you shouldn't lie. These are just sort of general moral laws that you see around the world. And the question then is, well, where did those moral laws come from? How did that get into our DNA that everybody kind of has that? And the moral argument for the existence of God says that that's evidence that God exists, that there is this moral nature to man, man being made in God's own image, that even in man's heart, he knows what is right and what is wrong. So those are three big arguments for the existence of God. Another one that's a little bit harder to understand is called the ontological argument for the existence of God. And the ontological argument just says, since there is a great being that I can conceive of, something greater than myself, something greater than everything I see around me, then God therefore must exist. That's the ontological argument for the existence of God. And you're going to look at these in a little more depth maybe in your time together this morning. The final one, which is really not an argument for the existence of God, but it's from philosophy, and it's called Pascal's wager. And this is the 17th century French philosopher who said, look, everybody in life either bets there is or there isn't God. And he said he was going to wager on the side that there was, because living life as if there weren't God, and if there is, then the consequences are going to be greater than living life if there is and there isn't. That's an interesting one just to consider, and you'll look at that a little bit in your Bible study time this morning, as you will try to wrestle with some of the questions of looking at the moral attributes of God. So if God is love, and if God is righteous, and if God is merciful and forgiving, how could God, a good, merciful, righteous God, allow bad things to happen? And then you'll look at the other attributes of God, the fact that He's omniscient, He knows everything. The fact that He is omnipresent, He can be everywhere. And the fact that He is omnipotent, He's all-powerful. So this morning in your Bible study classes, and as you have these small groups together, you're going to just dig into what the Bible has to say about God and the existence of God and the truth about God.